Welcome back to Whitt Acres. Today we are going to be doing a fall garden tour. It's the beginning of fall, just getting started, so there's still a lot of plants that are looking good right now this time of year before the cold really sets in and everything really starts struggling. We just had a recent video of coming down here into the vegetable garden to get it all cleaned up and cut back for the fall. We still have a little bit of work to do before winter, but I wanted to get it cut back so it still looked good and what was still blooming could shine through all the weeds. So we have our fall garden bed here that's actually doing really well, a lot better than I thought it was going to do. We have some chard doing good, Lanceolato kale still going strong. We have the tango leaf lettuce down here looking really nice, as well as some iceberg lettuce and some red romaine. Everything's real full. I have some broccoli over here, some carrots, calendula that is still going pretty good. And then we have a pumpkin, which I pretty much cut all the vines back from the pumpkin, but I left that in there because it makes the fall garden look really nice, as well as that really big Brussels sprout. It would be nice to be able to get a couple Brussels sprouts off of this plant. It is trying to produce some now, but I'm not sure if anything will become of it, but I'm gonna let it try. I got the drip system for the pumpkin patch pulled out so I can actually get this ready and redone. I have one plant left here that's growing out of the compost. I didn't cut it back because it was still producing some things, which really can just be food for the pigs. So I left that one go and it's still putting some growth off. It's nice dark green. But I got everything else back here cut off, cut back the squash mound, got the fabric pulled off and rolled up. I still have the fabric down the center, so I want to get that all cleaned up and pulled out so I can amend the soil in here with some more sand and compost. I want to do better with my giant pumpkin next year. I only grew up to 29 pounds this year. We had a competition at work and I had a coworker grow a 73.4 pounder, which was a pretty good sized pumpkin. Doesn't beat my personal best, but mine was only 29 pounds this year, so he wins the competition for this year. So next year I really want to try and step it up. So I'm going to be doing some amending to the pumpkin patch and getting it ready for next year. My Royal Empress Palamonian Tomatosa tree is doing amazing. It's definitely the tallest it's ever been. This is probably the 5th year for this tree, and I've been cutting it down to the ground every year to restart. So this is all this year's growth. I cut it down I think in May, so it sprouted up a tiny little sprout, and this sprout grew into this massive 15 to 18 foot tree right here. So hopefully it's going to survive the winter and make it through and I can keep this thing growing on. But it's just awesome to see this plant grow every single year to these heights. It's the world's fastest growing tree, and it really does grow fast. Hey, wait, what are you doing? What are you doing in my garden bed, puppy? We still have some French dwarf marigold going. This was the artichoke, so there might be artichoke seeds going in there. Hey, little grasshopper. How you doing, buddy? Working away on the little tiny flowers. A lot of the bees tend to like the tiny flowers. We have some nasturtium down here for the butterflies and the hummingbirds, some calendula, more zinnia. This has been a volunteer zinnia right here, which actually did amazing. Really nice combination with the pom-pom red and the open purple one. I like that, really like that there. The butterfly bush is still trying to put on a little bit. We have some more zinnias, and we have this massive wave of the purple hyacinth bean vine, which is just in full bloom right now, putting on a show on the corner of the garden here. And I just love the dark foliage, the bright purplish pinks going on the flower, and then once they mature into this beautiful burgundy seed pod, which adds just more interest as the plant dies back. A big pile of sand right here for the pumpkin patch, a little bit of compost left over, and a ton of tomatoes. These are the Geranium Kiss tomatoes. You can see the little Hershey Kiss nipple thing right there. It's a Geranium Kiss, and I don't think any of these are going to ripen before we get too cold of weather. It's been 40 a couple of the nights already, and these things really just slow down whenever you get that low into the night. We do have a few, maybe. There we go. That's a nice sized one right there. It's a pretty good one. There's a few in there, so I'll have to pick these before we get too cold out here. I have more Brussels sprouts out here just putting on their Brussels. I don't know if they'll actually make anything, so they're going to keep going because I've never grown Brussels sprouts before, so I'm just giving them their best shot to produce something. We have these little weird bugs on them. Hopefully they don't do too much damage. I haven't really sprayed or done any type of pest control down here. They're just all growing organically this year. We have onions left in there, some bunching onions still good to be harvested, and an Ace 55 tomato. I put determinate tomatoes in this one, the Geranium Kiss and the Ace 55, and they just got kind of a late start. You can see I have a ton of beautiful tomatoes in here, and I just don't think they're gonna ripen. So I might be able to harvest the green tomatoes and ripen them inside, but if you know how to do that, let me know in the comments down below. Right behind it is another big batch of the purple hyacinth bean vine, just climbing all over itself and creating just a bush of color. What are you doing, turkey? The turkey roosting up on their little roof thing. Ducks hanging out. Late in the season, I did plug in a pack 72 tray of these dwarf zinnias that I sowed the seeds of, and it is just popping off color all along the outside of this fence right now. That was a really good choice of doing that, because right now when everything else is dying back, these are actually coming into a lot of color, just really holding the fence line together until the frost comes. We got some dahlias that are blooming. The Vista pink bubblegum petunia from Proven Winners has been doing amazing. The artichoke foliage I really liked, and then just wave after wave of zinnias. Oh, I actually got a purple echinacea to bloom. I grew this baby from seed and it actually put off a bloom. I didn't think I was going to get any blooms this year. I was going to have to wait till next year, but that is awesome to see. Sweet. Look at all this color back here. Gorgeous. I'm thinking next year this whole row on the outside of the vegetable garden is going to be a cut flower garden with just a bunch of color. That way I'll be able to come out here and just cut a lot of these flowers. What are you doing, bud? And I won't be actually taking away from the landscape. I'll be able to actually get these. What are you doing? Puppy. But I always feel bad cutting flowers out of the landscape because I wanted them to bloom there. I always hate cutting flowers out of the landscape once they start blooming, because I wanted them to actually bloom there, so I want them to stay where they are. I don't want to cut them away. But then I really do want to make a place where I can actually cut some of these flowers for arrangements without feeling like I'm taking away from the landscape. These 4 jaguar marigolds took over this entire corner in here. There's actually a rose bush in there somewhere in the center. Little rose bush leaf right there, but these jaguars have just taken over everything, as well as this creeping Charlie I can't really get a hold of. The nasturtium shooting out through the fence. I always love this nasturtium, but at the first sign of frost, these things will wilt back and they'll be done. But that water is just awesome on that nasturtium leaf. You can see they just bubble up. Cool. Looks like I'm gonna have another echinacea try to bloom. That's sweet. I do have some perennials in this line, so I'll have those for the cut flowers as well, but I'm gonna be adding a lot of sunflowers, zinnias, and if you can think of any other cut flowers I should be adding, let me know in the comments down below. This empress tree is massive though. Look at that. Got some height. Welcome to my pond. Down here at the pond, we still have a lot of beautiful color going on. The impatiens have been doing amazing, a lot better than I thought they were going to do. The Vista petunias are always doing great. We have some annual dahlias left poking through. We have a volunteer zinnia doing really good, as well as this gourd that wraps around the entire backside of the mound. It just overflowed the entire mound. I had to cut a lot of it back so we could still see the color on the mound. But it's a birdhouse gourd, and there's a ton of birdhouses just growing right there on the bank for me, right in the waterfall, up in the stream even, if you can see that one. So we're gonna have a lot of these gorgeous gourds ready to make some birdhouses for next year. The 6 pots off the steps actually turned out really good as well. I put some pumpkins out there from the harvest down on the squash mound. We got the lime sweet potato vine and the Vista pink petunias just looking really nice. Couple bushel gourds tucked in there as well. And I think the stairwell really filled out here this year. We got this one gourd right here in the cold frame. It's actually growing in between the wall and the cold frame. really stuck itself in there. Underneath all that dichondra silver falls is the broken flower pot, the stone pot that I usually put in the bank, and it is fully covered by that stuff. The creeping Jenny did a really good job of flowing over the stone, as well as the petunia. We got more gourds going in there, but it just really held the edging to make it look real nice and natural. You got the stones, the logs, the purple oxalis, and the impatiens. Just doing a really good job until it's unfinished by puppy. This lemongrass here on the right got so much bigger than I thought it was going to. The banana plant is doing amazing. It can get a little bit bigger than that, so I might have to move it for next year, but it actually did really well for this year. I'll probably dig that up and not leave it in the ground since I'll be moving it anyway. I'll also have to dig up this elephant ear here on the left. And you can't even see it anymore, but deep in there is a hibiscus as well that I'll have to dig up. And it had a bloom on it just the other day, but we've had some cold nights, so it's actually definitely tapered back. If you want to see a detailed walkthrough of the waterfall, I do have a recent video on that as well, so you can see every aspect of the waterfall going through here, because there is a lot of different changes and drops and styles of falls, and they were all thought out from the start. So go ahead and check out that video for a nice overview of the whole waterfall itself. You can see that gourd just won't stop growing. It's still reaching out towards the pond. The dahlias in the back and the zinnias are going off, and I'm actually surprised to see that there is some portulaca still going, but this butterfly bush really came back and did a lot better in the fall than I thought it was going to. It just kept on blooming. I believe it's the Pugster variety, and it's been doing really good for all the butterflies that have been sticking around, as well as all the zinnias. The French dwarf marigolds did really well, and they're holding on to the color a lot longer than the jaguar marigolds, which is nice. Some annual dahlias still holding on to some color for the bees, as well as this big pink zinnia that actually split off in the last storm we had, but it's still going strong with the branches it does have left. Puppy, we're not playing ramp ball, buddy. He even had this little drift of volunteer zinnias pop out into the yard, and I kind of just mowed right around them, framed in all the rock and material that we have out for the pond, and it turned out really nice. You can see this gourd along the backside of the pond here is just laden with a bunch of fruit on it. Bunch of nice birdhouses, good size too, really nice size on a lot of these. So I'll have to go through and collect them all and see how many I have this year, but I'm glad I got this plant to volunteer right here on the back side of the waterfall. It's growing straight out of the yard right there. I didn't plant it, Mother Nature and the birds did, so I'm really thankful that they put out all these nice birdhouses for me to use. We got a gourd over here by the driveway. I'm not sure what it is yet. Nasturtium in there too. Oh, okay, here we go. It is some type of I don't know, pig feed is what it is. This is an elongated pumpkin tile, and that's probably going to go to the pigs. It's nice to have. It's just volunteered right here by the sidewalk. And now we'll check in on how the jungle garden did this year. I wanted a tropical theme, so I think the elephant ears really helped out with that, just going all the way through the big leaves, and the big leaves from the gourds as well. Some of them are all dried up right now because the gourds do not like the cold. We still have a little bit up there on top. This year is definitely not as impressive as last year, but we do have some dangling gourds there. We have the dipper gourd or caveman club gourd. We have the snake gourd growing here, nice and straight. I don't know why that's the only one that grew, but a lot of the other ones fizzled out. You can see some young ones here, but I don't think they're going to do anything. We have this little squash type, probably going to be pig feed as well. But that thing tried to grow up. It made it all the way to the top. It didn't turn out too bad in here. I didn't get the hammocks up or the swing up like I wanted to because we had the animals, and I pretty much just ran out of time taking care of them. But the vines have grown up a lot, so they'll be even healthier for next year, and I should be able to get some gourds out here earlier next year and get a lot of this covered up for the summer, and maybe even have a full dangling set of gourds in the hammocks up here. I think it'll be a nice calming area to sit. And once the hammocks are up here and the whole thing's covered in leaves, I think it'll be a nice little area to come in and be separated from everything else, and it'll be nice and cozy, and it might feel like you're in a whole nother garden. The silver lace arch did really well this year. It actually got so big it keeps falling down. I need to get a little bit better support on that. But we've had some crazy winds Coming back the pathway, we had the hosta and the echinacea do good. The elephant ears are coming up, which I need to dig out because they're just freeze and turn to mush. We had the tomato and calendula doing really good. You can see how they're all fell back because of the 40-degree nights. The elephant ear is still going strong until we get the frost. We did pour a new pad back here, which it was really wet while we were pouring it, but turned out all right. We're gonna have a nice mud-free entrance into the hangar now. But on the back side of the pergola, we kept the jungle feel. We have some nice evergreens here, which aren't very jungly, but the big patch of calla lilies and the nice hedge of calla lilies going along the walking path. We have more of the gourds growing out here and the gherkin, as well as the trumpet vine got real big out here. We had some melons and gourds growing through the bottom here, but I did weed whack a lot of that down because we had tall grass as well, and I wanted to see the elephant ear and the hydrangea before it was done blooming. This volunteer tulip poplar is awesome. This was only about a foot and a half in the beginning of spring, and you can see how much growth it put on. I want a tulip poplar, and one volunteered here, which is very fortunate. So I'm going to be moving this out of the driveway area and out towards probably the duck house because I want a nice shade tree there that's going to be growing fast. And this is a beautiful leaf tree, which I wouldn't mind looking at out by the duck house. I also want a sassafras tree, which has a really nice unique leaf as well. And one of those volunteered out by the mailbox. So I'll be able to dig that one up and move it probably into the nursery until it gets to a decent size and I figure out where I want it in the landscape. So always keep a lookout for some nice volunteer plants. The gourd that was growing out here, you can see, is the apple gourd, and they grow kind of a different shape. This one is a volunteer, so it doesn't have the best structure. Or it actually wasn't a volunteer. I planted the seed, so I don't know why. This one has a better apple structure. Here we go. There, that one is why they call it an apple gourd. Looks just like an apple. If you were to paint this red, it'd look like a really big apple. So these are really good for birdhouses as well. So that's going to be really nice to have all these birdhouses ready for crafts after I dry them out this year. You can see what they turn into. Nice little birdhouse, and we had a lot of visitors this year. This thing was constantly full. You can see the sticks inside and the peckings on the outside. We have multiple around the property. We have them in a bunch of different trees, and they were all occupied this year. So I will be definitely making more for next year. The island garden is all but finished up. I did get some of it cleaned up for the fall and everything cut back. The burning bush in the pot is starting to flame right now, turning red, and it's looking pretty good. Some blooms coming off the purple ice plant. A really nice late blooming roughly pink iris, so that's nice to have out here. It's all on its own and everything else is looking kind of crappy around it, but it's nice to have something blooming. We won't be heading up to the barn in this video. This is a garden tour and not a barn tour, but we do have the 4 pigs up at the barn, which will be going in 1 more month down to the butcher. They are getting big. We also have some turkey, which are about halfway there. They have another 2 months before they'll be heading out. And then we'll be keeping all the ducks and the chickens for the winter, as well as Mumbles the goose. So we have the duck house, we have the barn. We'll be keeping the ducks and the chickens all winter long, collecting the eggs. But we are on limited time with the pigs and the turkey. So if you're interested in the animals here on property, go ahead and subscribe down below. And you'll be able to see all the animals grow up and go off to the butcher or stay here on property. I got the side garden here all cut back so you can see all the plantings in there. Nothing's blooming anymore except for the sedum. Sedum's coming back, and we have this all over the property, so we have a little bright color for autumn, which is pretty much the only thing that'll be blooming going into the winter here. But before the cold actually snaps off, we have a beautiful show out here with the hydrangeas in the front garden. The new garden expansion here turned out pretty well. This is the corkscrew willow, which we will be getting pruned back here shortly. We have some pumpkins that are rotten and we'll be going to the pigs. The Vista petunia that took over my Bobo hydrangea, and I need to rip that back, but I just wanted to keep the pop of color as long as I could. I don't know why this is happening, but we have some blooms coming on my laurel right now. Look at these flowers. I've never had a laurel bloom before. They always die before they can bloom, but this thing's trying to bloom right now, which I don't know why. I want you to save all your blooms for next year. You don't need to be trying to bloom right now. But all these limelight hydrangeas are in full bloom right now, and the colas are massive. Look at these. These are good 10, 12 inch colas, And we got 4 plants going all the way down the front row here, just looking full and beautiful. I wish the hollies were just as full. Our brand new oak tree's looking good, but I got all the hollies cut back and pruned, so they're actually, all the dead is out of them. And you can see how pretty scant they are. We'll have to wait and see how they recover, but getting them cut back should help them focus all their energy on their good growth and not any of the old branches trying to regrow. So hopefully we're going to actually grow up and create a nice evergreen hedge here next to this open field. Corner down here still has some color. We have the black-eyed Susan blooming with the rudbeckia down there. It's just a nice color right there. Blue Jean baby Russian sage is just looking gorgeous, holding on to its color for a really long time. Coxcomb has re-volunteered. We had a beautiful hedge of it here last year, but we didn't get it down in time for the weeds took over. And all we have is what actually volunteered and was able to make it through on its own, which is a decent amount. At least not so much that half, but this half kind of came in pretty strong. And if we had more time in the season, I think more of it would be coming in. This massive grass is just flopping over. I don't know if I want to split this. I probably do want to split this up and get it around the property, because I don't need it this big right here, but I really would like to have more of this ornamental grass everywhere. As with this sedum, you can see this beautiful sedum. It is time to separate this. Whenever it gets hollow like this, you want to split that root ball up, give them some room so they can grow in a nice spherical ball shape and tight, instead of all open and wide like it is now. Cardinal climber completely engulfed the lilac tree. Look at this. It's fully covered in the cardinal climber, which is this little red flower right here, and the nice frilly fern-like foliage. It's actually a star pattern flower. Here's one. It's that one. Hummingbirds like it, and so do the bees. But it just completely devoured this lilac tree, which is awesome. It's exactly what I wanted it to do, is take it all the way up and look like the tree's alive again. Which it doesn't really look like it's alive, but it looks like it's covered in green. I have this chameleon ground cover that's adding some nice color out here by the mailbox. And here is the sassafras volunteer that I want to dig up. And it's doing pretty well. It's getting overtaken by some morning glory vine, but pretty much everything is out here. What are you doing? What are you doing, little puppy? What are you hunting for back there? It's just you're in a little jungle, aren't you? Pretty much the star of the show out here in the front is the burning bush. This one's getting pretty floppy because we've had some rains and winds right before the cold weather came in. But it is just starting to turn red, which is looking really... Thanks, pup. Thanks, buddy. Looking really nice, especially underneath the hemlock ring. I think it's turning out really nice. It's starting to burn, and it's definitely going to fill out a lot more red like you see on that one. And that's just going to change the whole look out here for the front garden. We have the pop of color down there with the vistas. You can see now why I left it. And then we have the beautiful French marigolds just holding on to all their color, looking beautiful for the fall as well. So I definitely probably will be repeating this look next year, because the French dwarf marigolds really just hold on to their color longer than anything else. And I love the smell of marigolds. It's starting to rain here, so we're going to finish this up. We have some coleus and blooming right there. Puppy, let's get inside. We got the begonias just blooming beautiful out here. I got the fall decorations out, so it's starting to look like fall season out here. We have another begonia doing really well. All right, that's all for this one. If you want to see any more, let me know down below. If you liked it, hit that like button. If you're new here, I post this channel about everything nature, living in, working with, and enjoying nature daily. I have a bunch of animals in the barn. I have a bunch of fish in the ponds and the aquariums, and I have a bunch of flowers, trees, and shrubs through the landscape, and we do videos on all of them. So if you're interested in seeing this property turn into a botanical paradise, go subscribe down below, hit that like button before you leave, and you can see me and Echo on the next one. Thanks for watching.